Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the YouTube channel, An American Professor. In this video, we're going to pick up where we left off last time with functions. We're going to get right into our first example here, the hello world as a function, hello world program as a function. So we have the def keyword, which is important for starting the definition of the function. Then we have the function name here, hello underscore world. In these parentheses, we put our arguments to the function inside of that when we call it after we've defined it. And we have the colon. Then below hello world, we have our function body. Here, the function body is just one line of code. It's the statement print hello world. So if we run that, we call that function. We see, let me restart the notebook, clear all the output. So so that cell defines our function, hello underscore world. Here we'll call it. We get the output, hello world, output in here. So we can change this string to anything. We could say, which we'll get into that below. So let's change the function name to hello, and we'll have one argument we'll pass in a name variable, a name parameter. So we'll be able to pass in any name and it'll print out the statement hello name, whatever we pass in. So if I call the function hello with the string Caleb, it'll say hello Caleb as output here. We can also say hello Jesus. Voila, it's that simple. So you just learn functions with no arguments and a function with one argument. So let's go to more of a numerical example now of functions. Well, this function is called sum variable underscore variables, and it'll take in two arguments, x1 and x2. It'll add them up and return the result as y. So in our previous functions, we didn't have a return statement. The return is important if you want to, after you do modify data, you pass in data as input, you can modify it, and then you return it. Here we're returning the sum x1 plus x2, storing it in the variable y and returning y. So let's do a simple example first. Let's take into an 8. We should get 10 out. That's what we get as output, 10. You can use this for any numbers. They don't have to be integers, but it can also be floating point numbers. Now we get 10.0. It's a floating point number. Another important thing to discuss for functions is keyword arguments in Python. First, you put all your positional arguments, which are required arguments, like x1 and x2 are required here. So if we just if we try to call this function with just x1, we're going to get an error. It's telling us we're missing one required positional argument, x2. But this function is a bit different. We're giving it an optional argument. We call it a keyword argument. So if we call that function, which I just redefine sum underscore variables, let's see what happens. We get 20 out because x2 takes its default value, which is 10, and you add that to x1, you get 20. Now let's see what happens if we override the second variable. So now we get 11. We've reset the value of x2 to x1, and that's what we're doing here. We're resetting that value to x2 to now have the value 1. You can have all of the arguments be keyword arguments, and that's what this example is going to show. So I define the function in the cell, and below I call it with no arguments passed in. Let's see what happens. We get 20, as you'd expect, because both x1 and x2 are taking their default values of 10. But similarly, we can pass them in like this. And x1 and x2 both get the value 5, and we get 10 as output. So you can override them. And if you want to be exact, you can do this. So I like to do this. I think it's more precise, but you don't have to. It's shorthand. Okay, and yeah, so with only the first um, argument passed and x1 being 10, you get 20 out. Now, a different function would define some product variables. Where this is kind of bad because typically you only want your functions to do one thing and you want them to do it well. Here we're doing two things in the function, but I'm going to harp on what I'm going to harp on is the return statement. I'm going to return y and z here. So I'm going to continue to pass in x1 and x2, but now I'm going to return the sum of those variables and the multiplication as y and z. So we'll pass in 3 and 3, and I'll catch the two return values. This is how you do it in Python. If you have more than one, you comma separate the return values from the function, and we'll print those out as y and z. So 3 plus 3 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, and those are stored, computed correctly, and returned correctly from the function. That's it for this video. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to help the channel grow. Look forward to continuing work on functions and teaching you more about functions in Python in the upcoming videos. And in the next video, I'll have some more content. That's our first foray of the channel into reinforcement learning. Until then, have a blessed day.